Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Links with Friends. Today is February 8th, and we're doing business and social stories.
The business section should be renamed to the collapse section.
It really is.
Well, we'll start with collapse, and it is the largest subcategory, and it just keeps getting bigger week after week. Collapse and AI. I wonder if those two things have anything in common.
No, they're not really.
I think it's definitely these employees that are leaving these companies might get replaced by AI.
PayPal to lay off 2,000 employees in coming weeks, about 7% of its workforce.
Yikes.
I've joined a whole host of other companies that are doing that. They didn't really indicate where those employees would be working, just that it's general downsizing.
General downsizing is the theme of the week.
Software company HubSpot cuts 500 jobs, which is really sad because they gave people sort of fake certificates in the beginning.
That was Snap, I think.
Yeah,
that
that
was
was Snap, yeah.
Oh,
this is
could
the
be
one.
nonsense.
This is the one that we were talking about earlier.
But this is not a tech company, but it's sort of been lumped in
Yeah.
with the tech world for whatever. It's a biotech, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So it always gets counted.
Impossible Foods planning to lay off 20% of its staff because a lot of the people in the technical industry have modified diets for one reason or another. Impossible Foods make plant-based meat substitute products, which are
No,
kind of artificial. Like processed foods are sort of bad.
I was going to say you are now a consumer
Yeah.
of artificial meats, and you've ranked them low.
Yeah, I would much rather have. I miss meat, but I don't. I would just have
Beans or rice or
Yeah.
lentils, yeah.
I mean, there's a 3-bean chili that I can make, and that poured over rice is a meal that I'm not tired of yet.
Tomato sauce, you're fine with that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that's vegetarian.
That opens up a lot of options for you.
Wheat noodles are also healthy for you. Like wheat noodles, like I could have non-wheat noodles probably, but you can't go. It would be bad to go overboard on noodles just for a lot of reasons.
That's true of everybody. I think.
Yeah, but wheat noodles are good. And it's like, oh, wheat noodles that don't taste as good. Well,
Are you talking about like the whole wheat?
yeah,
Yeah, I always like the
Yeah,
whole wheat.
I was sitting here thinking, like, what's a non-wheat noodle?
Yeah, there's like the regular noodles, and there's the whole wheat, and those are usually darker.
You ever see I can't remember what the name of it is, but there's a Japanese thing where it's a translucent noodle-shaped
Glass
plant
noodle?
thing.
rice
Oh,
noodles.
No, it's not rice. And they're like, oh, this will totally replace, wheat entirely. And I got some of those. Those are absolutely repulsive.
what'd you put on them?
Texture, taste. I use them like spaghetti.
Rice noodles are good.
Anyway, they point out in this article, it's like, yeah, it's weird because the price of beef is skyrocketing, and yet people still won't buy our slurry.
Who will take care of the impossible cows now? All those impossible farmers have been laid off.
And it really is just copy paste.
The Impossible Cow is the Senta cow, the
Yeah.
original Impossible Cow.
It's just the percentage that changes in these headlines.
Philips got 13% of jobs in safety and profitability drive. This is the Philips medical division, which is kind of surprising because that was one of the industries that didn't seem to really care about anything.
Also, safety. That's a weird spin to put on it. It's like, oh, it's so unsafe. We got too many employees. It's not safe. We got to get rid of
It's
someone.
like a fire code thing that they brought everyone back to work, and it's like, ooh, there are too many people in this office.
And the numbers, I mean, 13% might not sound like a lot, but some of these companies are huge. And still, if you're one of the 13%, it hurts pretty bad. But some of the numbers are very large percentages.
Cash-strapped EV startup Arrival is laying off half its workforce.
I don't remember this one.
That's a UK company.
Yeah.
You don't remember them because they've never done anything. It's these EV companies that don't
Pop
ever
up,
produce anything. They get funding and then they just quietly fail. I don't know what kind of racket that is. That's ridiculous. And here's one that you don't see very often. Usually when the cuts come along, you cut from the bottom. You shave off, you take a cheese grater and just run it along the bottom of your corporation. But Intel is in such a bad place that they have to do this.
Intel slashing CEO and managers' pay in a bid to preserve cash and also their dividend. So Pat Gelsinger gets a 25% cut, managers and mid-level folks about a 15% cut, and general workforce 5% cut. There are also other benefits that have been cut, like 401k matching and a whole bunch of other things. So it really does seem like a portent of dark times for Intel, but they're also cutting it's weird. They did a price hike of the 12th gen CPUs, and now they're doing a cut of the 12th gen CPU pricing, like 15 or 20%. And they still are going to do their dividend. It doesn't okay, just don't do the dividend. And then,
Oh, that hurts us now.
No, line must always go up.
That immediately hurts the stock price.
line no go up.
Yeah, that's exactly how they think.
And like many of the other companies we talked about last week, after the big cut headline comes the revelation that entire pieces of the company, like entire teams, in one fell swoop are just erased.
Intel sunsets its network switch biz. It has killed RISC-V Pathfinder and a bunch of other things. Now, they did clarify, that's what the updated is here, that Intel Foundry still plans to produce silicon for customers like RISC-V. It's just that the RISC-V Pathfinder internally, where it's like, hey, Intel might be making some RISC-V IP, that's gone. And also the Intel network switch business is really weird. It's in one of those superpositions where when you ask about specific networking products from Intel that look pretty good, Intel's like, that might not be dead. But then it's like, well, you're the people that were working on it, they've been reassigned. And the reassignment could include not working here anymore.
They've been reassigned to another company. Now, these layoffs, generally, because we've entered into a new world where, and I appreciate this, we don't do a lot of phone conversations.
No.
Most of your communication comes from some other type of deal, usually text. But when it comes to your losing your job, is that acceptable?
Layoffs by email show what employers really think of their workers. Or Elon Musk did it first. Alternate headline.
And if you want a great example of that,
Well, this again almost made nonsense for me because it's so awful.
it is someone who is not good at communicating via email. An excellent case study.
PagerDuty CEO quotes Martin Luther King Jr. in the worst layoff email ever.
Happy Black History Month. You're getting laid off.
So the quote was something about like
Leadership. She's literally complimenting herself while she lays off her employees.
the measure of a leader is not during the good times, it's during the hard times. And I guess we read into that she's doing really good.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Ugh. How do you have a moment where you're rereading that email and you're like, yeah, this is really going to make them feel good about losing their job right after Christmas?
The third edit, you're like, that's perfect.
Yeah.
The MLK quote really was the chef's kiss to make this amazing. You know what? They're probably going to send me thank you letters.
Thank you for laying me off. I don't know if you were at Google and you get like 5 years of unemployment, I mean, that would be like, oh, okay, thanks.
Yeah, the problem is, as we'll see later, the predictions across the 5-year scale are also bad. And, usually there are unassailable titans that even when things get bad, they are still okay in terms of they are making a profit, but we are entering some dark times.
Amazon reports its first unprofitable year since 2014. Good Lord.
Is that across all divisions or is that just like their online store?
That's the total, but even AWS,
wow.
not doing great. And because of that, we know that Mr. Musk is certainly cutting to the bone. Now, the way that he's doing it, he's not selling buildings. He's just refusing to pay for them.
That's the difference.
If I do that, I get arrested.
And,
it's funny how that works.
And Mr. Bezos is he's also cutting down the warehousing, which is funny because remember he was snapping up all that warehouse space. It's like, oh, we'll always be able to use that. Maybe not.
Amazon to sell its Bay Area office complex as sales growth cools. People are shocked to learn that San Francisco is not the center of the technological universe. Film at 11.
Looks nice. Got a swimming pool. Somebody will get a good deal on that. Now, this one was updated. Sony is denying this. I don't know if I believe them.
Sony halves reported sales expectations for coming PSVR 2 headset. The discrepancy here is what they tell shareholders versus what the press people are screaming. Those are different things. Ah!
So what was originally leaked is, they're going to cut. There was a supplier, and the supplier was like, well, based on how they're changing our orders, they're cutting that by 50%.
Wow.
Who? I mean, that is
It
definitely
requires a PS5 and it doesn't support the original like VR games from the last generation.
And
So
it's-
like, why would you want that?
it's very expensive. How much do
Yeah.
those cost? I don't remember.
More than other VR offerings.
But you need $499 for the PlayStation 5. Anyway,
Yeah, just
it's not something you're going to buy if you don't have enough food. Do you want PSVR or do you want to have steak once a month? That's your choice. And China, well, unless you want,
unless you want to, then you don't.
Wendell
have
can go ahead and
steak
get the
anymore.
PSVR, and then he can
Yeah.
eat a VR steak. In China, they are also having a terrible slowdown. Now, their slowdown is obviously because they made a very stupid decision for a lot of years there in the recent past. But it's a knock-on effect. It affects everybody.
China's smartphone market slumps to a 10-year low in 2022.
Why would you refresh your smartphone right now? And this, I feel like this is one of those, because you have to think about, especially when you get older, you have to ask yourself, is like, well, is the world descending into madness, or am I just getting old?
But maybe it's a little bit of both a lot of times.
I wonder about that when I rant about how awful Android is. It's like, am I just getting old and don't understand technology anymore? Because this seems very just useless.
I don't know what the analog of that would have been in revolutionary times, but yeah. This question has definitely been one that has been asked over and over throughout history, but it does feel like the younger generation are incapable.
America is failing to prepare Gen Z to enter the workforce due to a glaring gap in tech skills.
I have an anecdote about this. I have a younger cousin who just graduated high school. I remember talking to her about some of the classes she was taking, and I was like, did you ever take like a typing class or anything like that? She's like, no. She did eventually take like a intro to tech class, but it was an elective. It was not a requirement. So like a lot of people in her grade, she said, didn't know how to type on a keyboard.
But I bet thumb typing there.
Yeah, they're really fast on like a phone, but they never actually learned to type on a keyboard.
When are all workstations going to have like
Swipe.
optional,
Yeah.
no, like a little, like it's going to be on an arm and it's going to be a little thumb typing. So it's just in case you can't type on a regular keyboard.
I've also heard people who like work with elementary school kids, they say that like when they take them to the computer lab for the first time, they reach out and try to touch a monitor because they're used to touch screens.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
All the fingerprints all over everything. There's I've helped some younger people try to use stuff, and it's interesting how they can accomplish complex tasks, but it seems to be via rote memorization and not having any sort of understanding of the underlying concepts.
So the American educational system?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like
Well, you're not encouraged to actually try to get stuff to work on your own because everything is locked down into apps and
yeah, it's just like, on like a tablet, like how do you get a file from A to B? And they're like, what's a file? And it's like, oh my
man.
gosh.
That's the Apple citizen.
Yeah.
That's what we would call those people. That's the Apple. That's what Tim Cook's vision of a perfect world is.
Or, you know, how on your mobile phone, when you go to share a link or copy something to clipboard or something like that, they'll hit the icon and they expect the application they want to send it to already be in the lists because that's what they've come to expect. But not every application does that or does that correctly or even has consistent behavior with that. And so if the application changes how that works, they get very upset and they're like, I need you to put the application back the way that it was. And it's like, this Dropbox works differently now. There's nothing I can do because they elected to do that. You have to think of your files in an abstract way, and it's like move your files this way or that way. It's like I don't know what those words mean.
How do I get to the cloud from here?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
maybe some, if we have any younger members of our audience, maybe you guys can talk about that too. Because
Yeah. Engagement challenge.
How young are we talking about?
like how young our audience is, or like
I'm saying,
like my cousin's like 18, 19.
well, I'm saying if you're under 16, I don't want to hear from you. You shouldn't be speaking in public or on YouTube comments
By law, you're not allowed to talk to adults other than your parents.
unless spoken to first. And we have a lot of the FTX fallout. A lot of the other crypto companies have gone under the spyglass. People started looking at their various things. It's like, were you doing anything even remotely like FTX were? And they're like, no, of course not.
And then Celsius used new customer funds to pay for withdrawals. Independent Examiner. So that sounds like a Ponzi scheme, doesn't it? It sure does.
It's kind of the classic definition.
Yeah. And this is an article hosted on CoinDesk. And so CoinDesk is like, please don't look at us. We're so good.
Please no.
And also the FTX collapse is now being dissected, and we find out all the people that invested money.
No, not people. Companies.
No,
The
companies
people are
aren't.
sealed.
Yeah.
No, the people are sealed. You're not allowed to know the people.
And it seems like, well, would all the major tech companies, would they be dumb enough to plow money into FTX? Well,
AWS, Microsoft, Google, and others are among businesses owed money after the FTX collapse. And even more shocking than that is that the individuals that invested in FTX have managed to keep their names sealed. These are just the institutional and corporate investors in FTX. My God, Sam Bankman-Fried could snow job anybody. This is incredible.
now who were the ones that paid his bail? Oh, right. That's also a secret.
He's like the Bernie Madoff of Bernie Madoffs. It's bananas.
He's like Bernie Madoff if Bernie Madoff had CIA backing.
Maybe that's what this whole thing has been.
Sounds like it's just, like government operated theft. And what a horrible world we would live in if the government could actually do things like that. Like, I don't know, break into your home on behalf of a business.
British Gas admits agents break into struggling customers' homes. And when there was outrage, they were shocked to find out that this was happening.
So here's the thing. You don't pay your gas bill. I mean, okay, fine. You shouldn't get free gas. The world doesn't work like that. But what they would do is they would catch you gone, use a locksmith to get into your house, and install a prepay meter on your gas line.
Inside your house.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's allowed. Now, they said they're not going to do that anymore, but I didn't read anything about punishment. Did you?
No.
And I think they'll keep doing it, honestly.
I don't think that they would really stop if people weren't outraged. It's like the whole Elon Musk thing. It's like, if you're going to sin boldly. And that's what they were doing here.
And it worked.
Yeah.
They probably they saved a lot of money getting those people on that. The prepay, like, you literally just get cut off if you don't prepay your bill.
Well, the politician said if you're a disabled person or somebody who's vulnerable, you shouldn't be subjected to this because things happen and, maybe you're not able to pay your bill for reasons other than you just don't want to pay your bill. And if that's true, then maybe those should be protected classes under the law for this kind of thing. It's like, okay, politician, can you make it even more illegal to break into somebody's home? Oh, wait, there's no punishment happening.
No.
There's nothing that's going on here.
It doesn't matter what disability you have or what class you are. Your home should be protected.
I think it is usually, but in practice, it seems like the answer is no.
And included this story because it's funny that, now that things are collapsing, there's a lot of schemes, situations where money was being misused or lied about, or, just put some zeros over here, move them over here, whatever. And in times of, money expansion, which we've been in for a very long time, you can kind of get away with that. But now it all comes due.
Human error leads to a $200 million+ Virginia schools shortfall. Ooh. How long till they come for teacher retirement?
They're probably already pickpocketing that out.
Because here in Kentucky, they were trying to get money out of teacher retirement, and including investing in Russian companies right up until the war, and it was like, oops.
Next week there's gonna be a headline. It's like Virginia school lunch changes to 1 slice of cheese and impossible meat that they got on discount.
It's Vienna sausages.
That is one interesting thing. Like the almond milk lasts a long time.
I actually kind of like that about like oat milk and nut milks and stuff. You don't have to worry about them going off.
But those aren't cheap.
No, they're not.
And this is, I think a lot of CEOs and politicians are kind of trying to sell us this idea. It's like, well, we're almost done with the bad times. Things are just about to turn around. And we had an amazing employment number today. That has to be fake, right? How can things be how can we be seeing all these headlines but we've got amazing employment numbers.
Doesn't it not count people who've stopped looking?
Not only that, but they also revised the past numbers down a bunch. So like we're up, but only after they revised the lies that they told us that those weren't as bad as they were when
the numbers for the consumer price index, those aren't out yet, but the numbers that go into those numbers are up 0.7 to 1.8%. So I don't see how that number could go up.
Yeah, I think maybe 2023 might not even be the end of this.
Mobile phone and PC shipments to fall again in 2023, Gartner says, and this is a Reuters article, and it breaks down the macroeconomic things, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you should enjoy what you have just a bit longer. We can all hang out together and warm our hands by the delightful banter and news stories that we share.
That's better than constantly upgrading if you don't need to anyway, right?
Yeah.
For the planet.
Yeah.
It's not good for line goes up, but
Think about it like this. Yeah, your phone right now might be a little sluggish. The battery might suck. But imagine when you're thinking back 5 years from now, when there aren't any phones, how much you're going to treasure those
when
memories.
you're slumming it in the wasteland, you'll be like, man, I really miss those times.
Or when your phone is government mandated to be on at all times.
Ugh.
And you don't have a choice. You just get the one they give you.
I would suffer under that system because I often forget my phone places.
I think you would suffer under that system for a lot of reasons, Krista.
Yeah.
They would not be a big fan of Krista's behavior and the Panopticon. And AMD has, they did their earnings and they actually did kind of okay. Compared to Intel, they knocked it out of the park.
Compared to Intel, they set the world on fire.
But a lot of you aren't going to like this because I know everybody's like, oh, AMD does no wrong.
AMD is quote unquote undershipping chips to balance CPU and GPU supply, according to PC World. So it's like less supply to balance out demand to keep prices high. AMD is kind of sensitive to this thing because they once accidentally overbought APUs and they had to write down an insane inventory of APUs. So they're extremely careful not to do that again. But it does end up keeping prices high. A lot of people were scratching heads when the new CPUs launched. It's like, wait, the 7700X is $300? What sense does that make? And then slowly but surely, those prices have been coming down.
And we've got some new hardware releases. I mean, you do still have to put out new products even when nobody's buying anything, right? So we got a couple from Samsung.
The Verge headline is, the Galaxy Book 3 Ultra is Samsung's shot at the MacBook Pro. And it seems like this is a paid article because it talks about all the crap that's in here. And then it says, I wonder if the battery life is going to be good. And the answer is no, the battery life is not going to be good because all of those things use close to 100 watts each.
It's also $2,400 for the base model. And so comparing it to the MacBook is kind of like one of the only good comparisons you're going to get.
Yeah.
In terms of price.
Yeah.
So they also have
Look at Samsung. They're so cute. They think they're $1 trillion company.
They also have a new phone, although it's clear that they have not tried to make this a revolutionary phone. This is just a let's get through this phone.
The Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra is a minor update to a spec monster. They basically just said, you know what? This is the same phone. They pulled an Apple. It's like, we're not going to do a new...
We'll put all the money into marketing and calling this a spec monster.
The camera's better. And boy, the metaverse. How many metaverse articles have we seen lately?
A lot.
Well, not recently.
Not not in like the last month.
Yeah,
Not any good ones.
Yeah.
They are not releasing any new metaverse apps. No one seems to be using it. There's an emergency.
Sorry.
They're going to save metaverse from dying.
It's bleeding out. Quick.
But we have found out that Apple has some plans to do some things in that space. And now we find out that everybody except Apple and Facebook are joining forces.
Google, Samsung, and Qualcomm team up to build a new mixed reality platform. That's it. That's the article.
Who cares? Yeah.
So they got together and they say, it's three companies getting together and saying, we believe that this is the future, augmented reality. And it's like, all right, great. What do you got? What project are you guys working on?
Right now, layoffs. We're really busy with layoffs. But right after that, we're going to get started
And
on
selling a
mixed
bunch of
reality.
our real estate.
And Apple did not have any revolutionary products this year. Now that we do still have the AR headset. Was that coming late 23?
Yeah,
Maybe,
they
yeah.
canceled one and delayed the other, or they combined it or something. I don't know.
But maybe this will be the product that just turns everything around.
Foldable iPad could arrive as early as next year, claims noted Apple analyst. That's 2024. As early as 2024. Foldable
How about
iPad.
they set it up so the pencil can be charged magnetically, which they already had and removed.
We found out why they did that, right? It had something to do with the internals. They
Yeah.
wanted to use a different USB chip or something.
They just cheaped out on the internals.
Yeah, they didn't want to have to do the magnet thing again. So they went back to the USB and it looks awful.
But those Apple devices are still out there, and the world, sadly, is blanketed with them.
Apple hits a milestone of 2 billion active devices as services set a new revenue record. It's almost like nobody wants to work obsessively on software except Apple, which is disappointing.
How many of those units are in Indian click farms? Just mounted on a wall somewhere. And Snap, yes, that's right. Snap, they have decided that they are now a camera company, not a social media company. And they have, this is the closest thing we've ever seen in terms of a company admitting that they want to do the Team Fortress Pyro thing.
Yeah. Snap hints at future AR glasses powered by generative AI. This was the same company that had the weird, like novelty glasses, the things that had like a built-in picture or a built-in camera, right?
And they had the selfie drone. Remember
Yeah.
the selfie drone? I don't know if they ever mass produced those, but
No.
they're really trying to come up with some wild new thing that's going to. So this is going to take the world that you're looking at and do things to it with AI. Initially, they're just talking about like maybe sharpening it up, making the world more high definition. I'm not sure exactly how that works.
More real than real.
But eventually you can imagine that they'll, like paper over the
They'll
homeless.
just put advertisements everywhere.
Oh my, instead of homeless people, you just see walking advertisements.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. Advertising.
I really think there could be some killer applications. I mean, imagine an AR thing that allowed you to, I don't know, assemble a home for yourself from a kit or something. And it's like, this is how the studs go, and this is how you run the electrical, and this is how you do the plumbing, and this is how tab A goes into slot B. That might be cool.
Hammering nails in AR seems like that would be fraught with injury.
No, I mean, you'd be hammering nails in real life. You would just get an AR heads-up display helping you do it right.
Could work.
I would love to have an AR tape measure and it's be like, this wall is square, this wall is level, this wall is whatever.
Would it produce an error though, like in your house where it's really old? Would it be like nothing is square, abort, restart?
Yeah, it would be like, you need to add more mud, add more mud, add more mud. It's like,
Or you could be like, I'm sorry, but this insulation is not on my accepted insulation list.
Yeah.
Please replace it.
Is this horsehair insulation? No, shut down.
Here's some Amazon links where I think you could buy some good insulation.
I really want to get one of those I'm sorry. I really want to get one of those, like one of those radiation detector things, because the house used to burn coal pellets a long time ago. And it's like, I wonder if the coal left anything radioactive.
Ever since you mentioned that to me, I'm like, oh crap, I should do that too. Because we used to have a coal burning in ours.
Well, if you are buying some new storage, you're probably going to go for solid state storage. But if you want a whole lot of storage, maybe you want to get some mechanical hard drives. And we now have a nice reliability report that's been made.
Huge capacity hard drives shine in latest storage and reliability report, but there's a caveat. So it's Backblaze. Backblaze has got the report, and this is an article about the Backblaze report. You should totally go check it out. Basically, the annual failure rate has gone down very slightly for 16 terabyte drives. The most unreliable drives are Seagate, but the cheapest drives are also Seagate, and they're not significantly more unreliable. And so even though they fail a little bit more often, they cost significantly less, such that the actual cost per byte is probably about the same.
Now, I imagine that they are predicting you're going to be using this in a situation where they are redundant, not just like a single drive.
Don't be that guy that shows up to the forum that's like, one of my hard drives died and now nothing works.
We had Google came up with the dystopian chat box, the pod. You will live in the pod and then you will go and work in a different pod. People didn't like that idea, but that didn't stop Logitech.
Logitech is working on Project Starline-like video chat booth called Project Ghost. And they've partnered with Steelcase to make it better because Steelcase knows how to make office furniture.
It's a sell, basically.
It looks a vaguely 2001. You remember the video conferencing stuff they had in the 2001 movie? That's kind of what it looks like.
It's modular. Looks like you can roll the couch out, have yourself a nice little lay down if you want to.
Well, when some company buys one of these and then it's at a closeout, let me know. Somebody email me. I'd like to get one just to try it to see.
The sleep pod.
Yeah, it's like convert it to something. It's like on today's episode, we're going to mod this into something that's actually awesome.
And we have the big work from home revolution that as much as the big tech companies seem to be trying to stop that, they don't seem to be very successful. And you would think that now that we are working from home, many of us, that the ISPs would have really stepped up their game, but not so much. However, there is one maybe bright light.
Frontier is bringing its 5G fiber network across the country. So you can get 5 gigabit fiber optic from Frontier at $155 a month to compete with AT&T's $180 a month 5 gigabit fiber, which is actually on fiber.
That would be nice. I don't often saturate my entire gigabit, but I still want more. There's never been a time where I have enough internet speed. And I always feel heartened by this kind of stuff. It's sort of horrific in terms of, yeah, they got to drill into your skull. But if you're locked in your body with these diseases, I want this option.
Yeah.
An ALS patient set a record for communicating via a brain implant, 62 words per minute.
That's faster than a lot of people type.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. It's they drill into your motor cortex and they are able to extrapolate this kind of stuff, which is just incredible. Terrifying.
But it
also
requires
incredible.
drilling. But imagine the future where maybe it doesn't require drilling.
Yeah, no, that's even more terrifying
Yeah.
because then it's going to be a requirement
Well,
for
Play
certain
the
things.
ads in your brain.
I've seen some prototypes that are things like they strap them to your shoulders. And so like all the muscles that are here in your shoulders and stuff, they don't necessarily use brain sensors, but they just, stick them to your back or you wear a shirt or something.
Yeah,
And that, it works similarly.
but I'm not talking about the body horror aspect of it. I'm talking about the surveillance aspect of it.
Yeah. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
Eventually that will be.
It's going to be cool as long as it's voluntary, but then it's going to be like, oh, in order to maintain this level of productivity, you have to do it. Then it's like,
To keep your health insurance, we need to be able to monitor your body at all times.
yeah. The Amazon warehouse person that has to wear the wrist thing that's training the AI, they're going to have to wear the bodysuit that is translating what they're thinking into their work. And it's like, Tim, I don't think you believe in Amazon. You need to think happy thoughts about Amazon. Sorry.
It'll be like your manager coming now. The manager comes around with like smile. They tell you to smile all the time, and now it's gonna be
It's like your
think good thoughts.
Your previous best was 155 picks per hour. You are a pro. You can do 156 picks per hour if you increase speed.
If you think more positively.
Yeah.
About 40% of your thoughts are below what we would describe as glowing thoughts. Can we bump that up? We need at least 80% of that.
Didn't we see this in the movie A Clockwork Orange? Man, we need to, I wish Kubrick was still around. We need Kubrick's vision of the future workforce where somebody goes insane because they're not thinking happy enough thoughts while they're working.
We can't give Kubrick credit for that. That was a book.
Well, I want Kubrick's vision to dump into my brain because yes, but Kubrick was good at saying things without saying things.
Using visuals.
Yeah.
Now, I'm the last person to defend Tesla. I think it's a terrible company. It wouldn't exist without subsidies, and it should have failed a long time ago. But I have to wonder, is this maybe because they created a situation where they quietly encourage customers to hang heavy weights on their steering wheels?
Another Tesla steering wheel fell off while its owner was driving. This is the second time an owner complained that the Tesla steering wheel has come off.
They had pictures.
No injuries, and they were able to pull over, but it was on the highway or an interstate or something. It was a median divider.
It's hard to see, but you can look at the tweet here. You see it just came right off. And he was in traffic, so he was able to stop without needing to steer. But then what do?
Turn on your flashers and then just sit there. I
Yeah,
guess.
you just have to wait because you can't steer away.
It's not like you can talk to your Tesla and be like, "Hey, pull over."
Also, the best part, cost them $103 at the Tesla service center. They didn't fix that under warranty.
Why?
Because they can. No one else repairs them.
And moving into the wait, no, this is the software section. This is not AI. Never mind. I don't know. I was on the fence here. Like, does you put this in the AI section? Do you put it in the software section? I went with software.
Report: Microsoft plans to update Bing with a faster version of ChatGPT in the coming weeks.
It's going to be GPT-4, which is almost exactly like ChatGPT, but faster.
And they're showing off new features. Is that the next article? No, you had an article about the email helper. We might have
That's in AI.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I probably should have sorted that last article into AI, but the problem is AI was just such a huge
Category.
category.
Basically, if you're in Microsoft land and you use Microsoft Office or Power Automate to do things, the AI is going to get a whole lot more useful or horrifying or not useful, depending on your point of view. And so we'll have some more stories on that later. But also, ChatGPT is going to make you 10x more productive because, I don't know. I really probably would turn ChatGPT loose with my email and just let it keep an email chain going. And I would just, it's like, how long can I go not actually responding to somebody and just the AI keeping them engaged?
You can do that with Teams already. Teams has the little AI suggestions.
Yeah, well, those aren't very good.
They're
right
not.
now. Maybe they're going to get a whole lot better.
Well, I'll tell you two pieces of software that aren't going to get any better because they're done.
EA cancels mobile Apex Legends and Battlefield games and shutters Industrial Toys Studio.
I'm not too broken up about this, but I'm sure some people are.
I don't understand mobile gaming at all, but isn't PUBG Mobile a massive sales
Yeah.
hit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very popular.
People play Fortnite on mobile too.
Krista, are you still a Netflix customer?
Not a customer.
Oh, well, I mean, you watch Netflix.
Yeah, I have access to an account.
Now, I've seen some updates that they have maybe postponed this again. Did you guys see that?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that.
I think they're really getting a lot of pushback. And it is a nasty system. This system, if you are someone who has a lot of homes, for example,
If you're very wealthy.
get ready to get a Netflix subscription for each home because you get one address.
Netflix unveils plans to prevent password sharing. Users must log in via their primary location's Wi-Fi network once every 31 days. What if you only use Netflix on the web?
That device has to check in from that IP address.
Well, you don't. Your ISP doesn't even give you the same IP address necessarily.
Well, they'll learn the pool and, I mean, I'm sure it won't be exact, but, and there'll probably be a lot of false positives, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll probably be like, oh, well, just contact support and explain that to them.
Fun engagement challenge. If you set your reverse DNS on any arbitrary IP address to include the word proxy, Netflix will stop working for you.
And we have a new Linux distro. And I know many of you are thinking, do we really need another Linux distro? Isn't that what the problem is? But they insist yes, because gaming.
PikaOS is the next-gen Linux distribution aimed specifically toward gamers. With its Ubuntu base, PikaOS makes gaming and standard desktop usage on Linux fairly straightforward. And rather than submitting a set of patches to Pop! OS or Ubuntu or anything like that, it's like, let's do a new distro. Okay.
We're going to solve the problems in the old distros while creating all kinds of new ones in our own.
It's my favorite paragraph.
One thing I should mention, during the codec installation, the Welcome app crashed and the codec installation process crashed. To get around this, I had to force a restart of the OS.
Linux on the desktop.
But look how happy the person was in the stock.
It's the year of the Linux desktop, Ryan. I don't know what you're talking about.
The Linux desktop is the desktop of the future, and it always will be. Krista, you were probably right around that age. You were actually what, like 10 or so when this came out? Maybe.
I never played it. I know it's like a classic, but I never played it.
Did you have a 64 though? I thought you mentioned
I did. Well, I had access to one that I would play at my cousin's house. I played Mario 64 though. That was like my game on the
This was
64.
really controversial on Nintendo. This was a very un-Nintendo-like a game at the time.
It was a shooter, right?
One of the best of all time. I remember we got snowed in, and I don't remember where I got a copy of this. Maybe I rented it or borrowed it from somebody or whatever. And I spent like the entire snowed in time playing it. It was incredible. But the remake, unfortunately, I've not seen good reviews of that.
Classic GoldenEye 007 game is coming to Nintendo Switch and Xbox. It did not age well.
It's a shame.
People have remade this, I thought, already in like
Yeah.
other engines. and
Probably
stuff.
emulation.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo has been kind of handsy with some of the. There were some remade versions that are arguably better than this, and Nintendo was kind of butthurt.
As they often are.
Yeah.
And the W3C, they've had some controversy in the recent past or whatever, but now they're moving themselves into maybe a less controversial role.
W3C relaunched as a public interest non-profit organization.
Maybe that's good.
I'm glad that they're non-profit. They should have been non-profit for kind of a long time. It was
Yeah.
kind of expensive to be members of the W3C.
And if you're like me and you sit around and you wonder, what will they ruin next? Here's possibly the answer.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge prepping Tomb Raider TV shows for Amazon. Woo! Apple's going with the Foundation series. Amazon's going with Tomb Raider. All right, it's cool.
Rings of Power, maybe the reason they're not so profitable.
Who did Halo? That was
Paramount?
terrible.
I think that was Paramount.
That was awful. And
I've heard really good things about The Last of Us, but I haven't watched any of it.
Alright,
I also haven't
yeah.
played the game, so I might not have the.
but I could get into a apocalypse story. It's
Yeah.
always good. I don't need to know the game to get
Yeah, a
into
lot of
it.
people saying it's pretty good, and that some of the episodes are even very closely stuck to the game.
Here's a warning about app security, right? Like maybe you're not thinking about app security, but you absolutely have to, because your phone is a dangerous thing to let out of your possession.
Boy 6 orders nearly $1,000 worth of food from dad's phone. This is a local Las Vegas story. It's like, here, kid, play with my phone. And then $1,000 of food starts showing up. They actually, the pizza didn't make it because the pizza order was $439, and that declined his credit card.
The fraud thing guy. You know how like the old, I'm not saying this is good parenting, but it's like if you catch your kid smoking, you make them smoke a whole pack till they vomit. I think that's what you should have done in this
They could
situation.
eat all the food.
It said they punished the kid by taking money out of his piggy bank in front of him to be like, this cost this much and this cost this much. And he was just like, no.
I once lost a $20 bill in a Walmart with my granny, and I had to work for her for like 6 months to pay it off. So like I was washing her dishes, I was raking her leaves, I was sweeping her floors. Like,
What if she was just like gaslighting you the whole
I
time?
mean, it was
Just
really
had to
kind of a
me.
way for me just to spend time with my grandma. But
Was this kid a trust fund baby? How's he got enough money to cover thousands of dollars?
No,
Yeah.
in the article, it said that the parents were doing it symbolically so that he understood, because he didn't understand that doing stuff on
doing
the phone.
stuff on a phone is actual physical money,
Yeah,
right?
he had no concept of that.
Well,
They-
a lot of those apps too, they don't have a confirmation. So like you could probably just order stuff and then
Yeah, he ordered ice cream and pizza and Chinese and
Yeah.
whatever.
Shouldn't somebody send a social worker out to do the same process with them about giving their kid unrestricted access to technology? And like, oh, you know what? For this month, you don't get to use your TV because you need to learn that you don't give kids unrestricted access to technology.
You turn the TV on and it's just a blinking banner that's like, you don't give your kids unrestricted access. I was like, all right, yeah, I forgot. Turn it off.
Let me get those car keys. You need to learn.
Here's your e-scooter that you can use instead of your car. It's like, but isn't it supposed to freeze today? Good luck.
We're gonna break into your house and put a prepaid meter on your.
You pay meter on your car.
oh, don't give them ideas.
And do you remember when Facebook was furious, absolutely furious, that some people were using the Facebook platform to scrape and run their own cottage industries? They went to great lengths to stop that from happening.
Engadget has the headline, documents show Meta paid for data scraping despite years of denouncing it. Where were they scraping data from? Competitors and other companies that they wanted to emulate, that they weren't yet competing with. That seems like a double standard.
So it's literally the exact same thing.
The Spider-Man meme strikes again.
I really hope the lawyers like point that out. Because, yeah, scraping publicly available information, that should be okay.
Your Honor, I submitted to evidence this picture of Spider-Man pointing at another Spider-Man.
And when it comes to like the next big app, if you work in programming or you work in, the web or whatever, a lot of people will come to you with their ideas for the next big app. And I would say 90% of the time it's, let's just remake product X, but for special interest group Y. Or let's change this one thing about product X. Let's just do Twitter, but for deer hunters. I've heard that one. And I'll be damned if Instagram's co-founders didn't do that exact thing and got venture capital for it.
Instagram's co-founders are mounting a comeback. Their thing looks kind of like Twitter, but with an emphasis on text. Okay.
Well, it's more like TikTok in terms of the scroll.
Right.
And it's pulling in different sources and stuff. So it's not quite like Twitter. It's just the addictive algorithm, but just for text. Which Twitter...
Step 1, be rich and connected. Step 2, don't be not rich and connected.
Step 3, venture capital. Step 4,
Disappear.
sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then let somebody else have the headache. Snapchat, yeah, this is what you were talking about earlier, Wendell. And who thought this was a good idea?
Yeah.
This is insane. This really does tell your employees that you think they're idiots. Now, maybe some Snap employees are idiots. Could definitely be true, but you shouldn't expect this to work.
Quote unquote, they will never care about you. Former Snapchat worker says employees were gifted a stock certificate with no monetary value. It was a stock certificate that had a stock value of zeros.
0 shares.
Yeah.
So a useless piece of paper. They killed trees.
This is wasteful. Yeah. I wasn't able to find a lot of other information about this article. Like, it seems to mostly just be sourced from like 1 or 2 employees, but what a stupid thing. After someone else quoted MLK in their layoff email, I mean, that doesn't even surprise me that someone would print out certificates like that.
What if they have a little internal game? It's like, I can be better than that. I can do something worse than that and get away with it.
Yeah.
They're like, all right, I challenge you to do that.
That feels like that's what they're doing anymore.
And finally, the decentralized social media. That's the holy grail, right? We get to communicate with each other in standardized packets that we don't need to go through all the surveillance system and the filters and, the control. Who's going to bring it to us? Well, the wrong person, I would argue. They've already failed once.
Decentralized social media project Nostradamus gets listed on the Apple App Store.
Stupid name.
Former Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey had donated $245,000, equivalent 14 Bitcoin. He's not really involved, though, is he, other than just the donation?
They needed a name for the headline, maybe?
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea, we've seen it before. End-to-end encryption, and it's all standardized so that you don't have to use this app to use the protocol.
And somehow, Apple approved it. Which is weird, because didn't they say that they needed a moderation system to approve other decentralized apps? Is there one in this?
Decentralized, by definition, would resist moderation.
Yeah.
Never going to be allowed.
Well, I mean, it's already on the App Store. That's what I was wondering, because there were other notable attempts to do this kind of thing, and Apple said no because there was no way to moderate content.
Maybe it's like Mastodon, and they looked at it and they're like, they're never going to do this.
We'll let them list it for a while. But
This is way too complex for the Gen Z people who only type with their thumbs.
Interesting. Well, what do we got lined up for Friday? Remember, that's the deadline for Devember.
We got robots, which is the AI section now, basically.
yeah.
And nonsense. of
They
course.
took my job. But robots.
Also a line unironically written in Rings of Power. Anyway. we'll
Wait,
see
they
you-
said they took our jobs in
Yes.
Rings of Power?
Yes.
Who took, was it the elves?
Yes.
When I watched I only watched 2 episodes of that, but there was definitely that whole the elves racism type thing.
Which is
But the elves were like legit good at things like the trade crafts.
what?
Wendell, you cannot make blanket statements about the elves. That's discrimination.
There's so many problems with that particular scene that I can't even. So many problems with it.
That's amazing.
All right, do we have a season 2 of that? Like, is that done or?
They literally started filming it halfway through season 1, and then there was a backlash to season 1, and they were like, "Oh."
So they haven't finished it.
Well, they haven't finished season 2. They're working on it right now. But one of the actors was like, "I'm not coming back." So.
I've done enough damage to my career. I've got to
Yeah.
get out while I can.
Yeah, that was kind of the vibe, but I don't know. Anyway,
Well,
that was not related to anything, but we'll see you guys on Friday.